Welcome back to another week of Centenarian Club. We have the amazing Alyssa Kirby Horowitz in the house. And last week she took us through some we got some really great feedback for you last week, Ali. It was like brand new information for a lot of people and talking about the different Chinese medicine associations with different emotions. And I think that's a very powerful association because like we were talking about last week, the in-depth emotions that we carry can really speak to what's going on deeper, right? And vice versa. So being aware of our symptoms as they come up, but also some things that aren't as intuitive, this directly points to this. It just created some different links for us. So hopefully we had some insights over the week, self-observing or maybe observing some of our family members or whatever. But then now Dr. Ali is going to be going into facial recognition and some things that you can look for in yourself and those around you, just to learn some deeper emotions and how they're expressed on the face and relation to Chinese medicine as well. So whenever you're ready, you can take it away. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm so excited to be here. Last week, there was absolutely some new topics. And so I'm just curious, I'll throw out there, how's that digestion process been? Have you guys been able to apply it in any way? Have you thought about it? Do you have any questions from last week? I'll leave the floor open for a minute or two just to see if anyone has any questions, and then we'll go right into a quick recap. And I'll start to share my screen for now. Any questions about the organs or the emotions that come up, or just have you guys found it easy to integrate in your day-to-day, or it's sort of just been like, oh, that was new and I don't really know what to do with it yet?
Well,
Oh,
I feel it makes sense, but like the next step to integrate it's maybe not there yet. Like it all makes sense, like oh yeah, okay. But yeah, I want to be honest, I don't know that I had like reflection of like, oh yes, we also this or that, or with
yes.
the kids. I'm trying how I could apply it with the kids. I didn't push the reflection further, didn't have the mind space.
That is so okay, but I love that. Yes, they're new topics, and it's sort of like, okay, I'm not sure what to do with this yet, but it is interesting.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Veronique.
And same, I was just looking at all the notes that we took and just kind of applying it to every family member. So with myself, my kids, my husband, and saying, okay, you have a little bit of this. My younger son always does the groaning all the time, like when he's upset. So when he has like a little fear, upset, he's always like, like all the time. That we also make fun of him for it because they're always like, oh no, Michael's mad, right? But I guess the integration of when there's the emotion and then the organ and how it relates and how you can, if there's an issue in the organ or if it's just the emotion that affects the organ, kind of like the way it kind of integrates together. I guess learning more about that.
Yes. Oh, that is such a great point, Tanya. And I'm so happy that you already started to see and pick up in your kids and start to pick up on these patterns. A great way to look at it is sort of like, we focus so much on physical symptoms in our day to day, and our current system of medicine really focuses on the physicality of our health, which is so important, right? I mean, even we in this group, we talk about exercising and eating right, and these are all physical things. But at that same breath, we also have this emotional and spiritual side to us that exists within our body that also requires exercising. And so I'm so excited to bring this up and really plant seeds, because that's what I'll look at this as. We're going to plant seeds of this new information and see how it grows in all of us. But it's a way to plant a seed that allows us to look at our emotional and spiritual health as just as important as our physical health. And what you said, like, is it the liver that's not good and then the emotions, or is it the emotions and then the liver? These are brilliant questions, and ones that us as naturopathic doctors are constantly asking ourselves, right? Because we are an ecosystem. And everything does pull and move into each other. No different than when you're looking at a stream or a tree and you say, why isn't this tree doing well? Is it the soil or is it the sun? Is the sun too much or the soil or the neighboring plants? That exact same thing occurs with when we ask about the organs and our emotions, right? So then we want to look more, we want to observe more and ask more questions. Are they constantly in a state? What emotion arises quickest for them? What emotion is most present for them? You know, and over time you build this pattern and then you can say, oh, then it must be the emotion. They don't know what to do with this emotion and it's draining the organ. So I'm just sort of blabbing, but there's different ways that we can start looking into it. And again, like Veronique and Tanya, we're planting the seeds and over time these will grow. And next thing you know, you're going to be somewhere, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, they must have a spleen imbalance. They have a hard time digesting information. You'll just start to be able to apply and use it in really fun ways. So today we're going to do a part 2, and I will do a little bit of a recap for those that weren't there. But today we're going to be focusing on the face as a map. So, you know, last week we really covered how we are a microcosm of nature. We're just a smaller version of nature, but all the wonderful, magical things that occur in nature also occur in us and our body. And in Eastern philosophies, in Asian medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, there's always these little spots in the body that you can get a look and see everything, right? The tongue in Chinese medicine is a way that you can look and see the health of the body. The ears in Chinese medicine, reflexology, the foot, right? You can map your foot, your entire body in your foot. And also in Chinese medicine, the face can act as a map where our organs open up into different parts. That's what we spoke about last week, right? Just means that you can really see the health of that organ in this specific area. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce some topics so that you guys could go out in your day-to-day to yourself, to your friends, to your kids, and start, you know, cluing some things together, start putting together a map of what you're able to see on the face. Because one thing that's so important is as practitioners, you know, in our Western medical world, it's very physical. So we depend on physical symptoms and tests, and that's really about it. But in Chinese medicine, your health is a puzzle piece, a jigsaw puzzle. And it's not just your physical symptoms, but also what your face is reading to me. What is your face telling me? What is the color of your skin telling me? What are the lines telling me, right? Your body language. There's so many other clues that contribute to your health in addition to the physical things. So these are just one of the many tools that we can use. So this week we'll do a little bit of an overview, go a little bit more into those Chinese medicine characteristics, and we're going to deeply talk about organs and what we expect to see on the face. And we're also going to do a self-assessment quiz that I'm really excited about. And so this is what we spoke about last week, right? Our organs are not just these physical symptoms, these physical organs that do physical things. They have personalities, they have emotions. They absolutely mirror nature's cycles. In the same way that we can all agree that, yeah, winter is a time for isolation and quiet, and summer is a time for joy, right? There's emotions that are associated with seasons. That too is also associated with our organs. So everything is so beautifully connected. And as we were saying, humans really are a microcosm of nature. We're just a smaller reflection of what nature really is. And for those who were not there last week, we really went into detail about the jobs and the roles of each of these organs in addition to their emotion. So we spoke about how, you know, the liver likes to plan, the liver is organized, the liver is really quick to get irritable and frustrated, right? That's the emotion. It's very quick to express. We spoke a lot about how the heart has a lot to do with well-being and joy, and it's so important. A strong heart means somebody who's very connected to those around them, has a good sense of mental and physical well-being. We spoke about how the spleen plays a really big role in processing and digesting, right? It processes information because what weakens the spleen? Overthinking. When we can't digest something, so it's just stuck here. So that emotion's going to hurt it. We spoke about how the kidneys store wisdom and willpower. We spoke about how each organ really has such a personality, a characteristic. We could almost draw caricatures of them. and how they really do work together, ebbing and flowing. And I really love Tanya's question because it highlights the Chinese medicine philosophy, which is that everything ebbs and flows into each other. We kind of look at things in our current system like cause and effect. Well, it has to be this. It's this one thing that is contributing, right? But like nature, there's just so many factors and it's so dynamic and it's all happening at once. So it is this ebbing and flowing. Is it the emotions? Is it our physical health, right? And sometimes it goes in and out. That's the beautiful thing or complicated thing about health. And so let's just do a quick recap. This is going to be the recap of the emotions, the organs, and then generally where they open up to in our body. So this is what we spoke about last week a lot. The liver harbors the emotion of anger. And so if people are quick to anger, you know, we spoke about the angry drunk. There is absolutely meaning behind that phrase. And when it comes to the liver health, we're going to see it in our eyes, right? Think of people who have like red eyes, you know, puffy eyes, tired eyes. I mean, the health of your liver is going to express itself in the eyes. We spoke about how the heart contains joy, and we're going to especially see that in our face. So you're going to see that in your forehead, in the color of your skin, in the texture. It's going to show in your face. That's where your heart opens up into. We spoke about how the spleen, of course, has to do with worry, right? Because we have to digest information. And if we can't, it's just going to sit there like worry. I clearly struggle to make facial expressions, but I will get better. And so we are actually going to see a lot of spleen in our mouth, right? Another way, I mean, we'll get more into this as we dive in, but, you know, think of somebody who's really worried all the time. They're like, oh, so stressed. Oh, I don't know what to do, right? Their mouth is like that. Maybe they're very judgmental because when you can't process or digest things, you sit with it more. You're more judgmental. So you're like, ooh. So that's going to be the mouth for the spleen. Of course, we spoke about the lungs that carry the emotions of grief and sadness. And the lungs open up into our nose, right? We spoke about, you know, when you're crying, you're in such an intense cry and you can't catch your breath, right? Because all that chi, all that energy is being used to express the emotion and not do its function. And we also spoke about the shy bladder, right? You know, when you're feeling nervous, embarrassed, or scared, and you can't pee, this definitely is maybe more true for men than women. But it goes to show that our kidneys harbor the emotion of fear. And we're actually going to see the kidneys express themselves in two areas. One is our ears, and the other is actually under our eyes. So the swelling, bags, discoloration, we're going to see a lot of our kidney health there. So this is just a recap of what we spoke about last week in terms of the emotions. If you guys weren't there last week, I'll give you just a minute or two to take a look and really take it in, maybe write it down so you have those associations next to you. And of course, we'll go through them as we dive deeper.
Yeah, I just want to say that we will probably go into more detail on these things as well. Like I know it's the first time that you guys have heard a lot of, you know, the Chinese medicine theory. So I remember when we were learning, it's like, okay, totally new. I got to memorize that the liver is anger and this, but it becomes more second nature. But just those emotions, I find in clinical practice are like so incredibly accurate. I'm sure you would agree, Ali, but it's like it's very reliable that when you see someone who has digestive issues, yeah, sometimes there is obviously a physical thing, they're eating like crap or whatever, but like 9 out of 10 times, there's some sort of underlying worry there that's causing the digestive issue. Or when there's like a chronic lung issue, obviously, if you just like get sick and you have a one off thing, that's different. But when someone has like a long standing issue with any one of these organs, like it's incredibly reliable. So don't underestimate the power of this. But now that you guys have been introduced to it, we'll try to like keep reminding you and it'll just become second nature. But it's very helpful, even not as a doctor. Like we're all going to know someone in their life who has cardiovascular disease or heart issue. And you can bet there's some sort of imbalance with, you know, their emotional health and not expressing joy or over expressing. So personally, I know we've just found this to be like so beneficial and very accurate. So it's a great recap here.
And a lot of people too have a tendency towards an organ, as Ali alluded to earlier. And you might find that for certain people, you have a tendency towards, you know, let's say joy, there could be a tendency towards joy, and on the contrary, it can swing very easily to sadness. And then same with liver, like it could be your first emotion, even if it's something sad that happens, it's like all of a sudden anger just pops up instead of sadness. So you almost have a tendency, it's like a constitution that you might be a liver constitution, then you're a little bit more tendent to go into those specific emotions or have those specific things come up for you. So it's interesting to relate this to yourself and to your kids and loved ones, so that you know like where their tendencies are, and then you can support their organs, their health even more specifically.
Those are beautiful additions. Absolutely. Thank you for adding that in. But definitely in clinical practice, we see this all the time. And it is a completely new language. And it's hard because you're thinking in like the conventional terms of what we're familiar with, but this is really a whole new language. And the goal is not to get too lost in it, but rather, hey, somewhere in our body, anger is stored in the liver. And somewhere in our body, joy is stored in the heart. And I know that we brought this up last week, but you can see this, and this can manifest in various ways. You know, I'm sure we've all been around that person who's a little bit too joyful. Okay, a little creepy. Enough with the smiles and the laughter. It's not that funny, okay? You know, like we've all been around someone who's expressed this emotion in what is then felt or received as like, something's off. Like, I don't know what it is. But that is a hint that, hey, this organ, this emotion in their body is imbalanced. It's being expressed in an unhealthy way. We shouldn't feel weird or uncomfortable around people expressing an emotion when it's done in a balanced and healthy way. And so that's a good way to look at it, right? You know, the angry drunk, somebody takes one sip of alcohol and they're like, bleep, bleep. I was going to swear, but I didn't. But, you know, screw this, screw that, blah, blah. You're like, oh, whoa, I don't want to be around him too long, you know? Or we all also have seen someone who the second they start to express their emotions, they are crying. They can't even get a word out. Let's talk about that imbalance there, right? So you can have a tendency to express it too much. You can have a tendency to not express it at all, and therefore also an imbalance. Or there's that healthy amount that we all feel comfortable around, you know, a good amount of laughter. Great. Joke ends, it's done, right? We're not continuing that laughter so that we all feel a little bit uncomfortable. And those two are signs of the imbalances of the organ. So if we get right into it, so these are the main facial features that we're going to go over today. So we have the forehead, right? Which some can say takes up the majority of someone's face. So that can be considered really like a way to look at the face. We're going to be looking at the eyes, the mouth and the lips, the nose, and the ears. And just for fun, I mean, I know this is still new topics, but forehead, eyes, mouth, lips, nose, ears. Can you guys connect the organ to that? Like which organs open up into the forehead? Which organs open up into the eyes, right? What organ are we looking at there? What organ are we looking at when we're looking at the mouth and the lips? What organ are we looking at the nose or the ears? Yes, Tanya.
The liver was the eyes.
Yes.
Mouth was the spleen.
Yes.
Was the nose.
Pardon me, the lungs, yes.
The nose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess the bladder would be the ears. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. You did so good. You did so good. See, and already we're associating it more. We're this language is coming together, right? We're putting things together, we're piecing things together. Things are happening in the soil that we planted them in. So let's step right into it. Let's go right into the first and foremost, we got the forehead. The forehead really is going to express our heart, right? We spoke about how the heart has a lot to do with our well-being, expressing joy. And so if we think about it, and we can take a look at the photos that we have here, when we have excessive lines, right? Excessive lines, we're talking, you're not going to look at that person and assume they're in a great state of emotional well-being. It's clear that perhaps they're under some stress or some worry. They carry some anxiety, right? You know, one thing I also want to mention, which is really important, we all have human faces that are going to age and are going to wrinkle and are going to show signs of expression. And that's not what we're looking at. We're not looking at these like one-off things or, like we all have stuff, but rather patterns. So things that are either peculiar or increasing over time or constant. Like if I squint, I will get those lines. But if I actually I do. See, I have a one line right there that's a little more constant. Yeah, I struggle with anger. Very honest, right here. So, looking at that as like a permanent, I would say, okay, we got to work on a little bit and how we express our anger. But again, it's patterns over time. It's just not one off. So we're all going to age and have beautiful skin, but it's a matter of what is our skin telling us, right? What areas do we maybe hold more or not express ourselves enough? So lines going vertically, horizontally on the forehead this way, it's really going to be a telltale sign of the spleen. We're thinking a lot. We're worrying a lot. We have a hard time. We can't digest it, right? We spoke about that. The spleen has a lot to do with being able to process emotions, process things. If we're not processing our food and digesting it, it's going to stay in our stomach. If we're not processing our thoughts, they're going to crump up as lines here that I'm so worried all the time. So that's something to look at. When we see somebody who has like this perfect, gorgeous forehead, like no bumps on it, like I have a little bit of a bump there. I'm not saying these things to put myself down. I love my face. I'm just doing it as an example. But somebody would have like a radiant forehead, no lines, shiny, clear, beautiful complexion. You would look at them and say, wow, they have a really strong heart chi. Their heart is very balanced. They can think clearly, right? They can digest their thoughts very clearly. If you see redness, that would not be a good sign of heart health in this area, right? If somebody was particularly red here, you would think of stress, right? Red, hot, heat, stress, anxiety. And those are the main things. I do want to bring up the 11 lines here. So those two lines that show up when we frown, like that. It's like, what facial expression am I giving when I'm doing this? I'm angry. I mean, I hope I look intimidating. I'm not. Okay. But yeah, like when I do these two lines, like that's anger. So
Very scary.
therefore, yeah, very scary. Thank you, Charles. Okay. So when we have consistently lines here, this right here area is liver. This is indicating that we have a hard time expressing our anger. And so it's sitting here. We're bunching it up here instead of, right, relaxed. And then in times of anger, we engaged. But some people have a resting face that we don't realize that will indicate which organ is in balance. Some people's face at rest is like this, like this. Wait, like this. I was trying to wrinkle upwards, right? Like we have different facial expressions at rest, which can also give us insight into some of the health of our organs. So that's when we look at the forehead. So this is just some fun clues the next time you're with someone, you're looking at yourself, your kids, your family, your aunts, your uncles, your friends, and you're observing. It's just adding pieces of the puzzle.
I wonder what, like, so many people are getting Botox now. And I wonder, oh, Veronique just mentioned something too. I wonder how that would actually impact, because you're not able to express yourself anymore because it's like literally like paralysis of muscles of the face. So I wonder how that would actually impact long-term or even short-term organ health in a
That is a great question. And based off of that, I would assume that there would be some downstream effects, right? If we think of these organs have to open up in here, but then we paralyze the muscles, not giving it an opportunity to express itself, I could imagine that then there's some cumulative effects over time.
Yeah, and if like I know some people are even getting it now in their traps because they're so tense. Like there's so much stress that they're tensing. So their solution is, well, get rid of the tension, right? But then I don't know if these things are because they're causing headaches and stuff, but then you're not actually dealing with what's underneath. So long term, the stress is going to impact you. Same with if you have the, we were talking about facial massage in December, Ali. So I was talking about, doing some facial massage and stuff like that. So if you have the awareness around the way that you hold your face, you know, even as you age and you start to do massage and then you're aware of your resting facial structure, I'm so much more aware now when I am holding anger or stress or whatever, and my face starts to get tense. I hate that feeling now because I've been working on relaxing it, which can then in turn help with stress reduction. So just Botoxing it does not eliminate that underlying cause of it, which I'm sure will have, beyond the Botox effects, I'm sure it will have effects
Yeah.
on other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. And look, you know, Botox is a short-term band-aid approach to what, one, is a natural process, and two, also, our face is a muscle, no different than our bicep. There are hundreds of muscles in here. And in the same way that we want to tighten our, right, we don't want skin here, and we tighten our arms and we do all these exercises to exercise that muscle, we also have the ability to exercise the muscles in our face. And if only we were all tuned into that instead of just reaching for Botox, you would have a much healthier relationship, not only to your body, but also to the health of your emotions, right? If I'm constantly having 11s here, I would want to say, why am I always like this? What am I constantly thinking about that my face is always like this, that I'm holding so much here throughout the day? And then, like Marissa said, the more you're aware of it, the more you can work on it. And then the more you're aware of it, the next time you're in this position, you could be like, oh, I'm aware that I'm in this position. I'm going to change my thoughts or, you know, move that stress, do something different. Absolutely. And so now, so we just did the forehead a bit. We covered really those main things like those horizontal lines, the 11s, and some redness. And now we're going to talk about the eyes. Because the eyes speak much more, in my opinion, than any other part of the body. They are so vivacious. They are really dynamic, and they're in real time communicating with you. And so what's interesting about the liver is there's a lot of sayings from, I think Nietzsche even said, and correlated a strong liver to a very strong man, or somebody who had big dreams, or somebody who was capable of doing really big things, the health of the liver. And we really do see that. Have you ever been around someone who had like the brightest eyes, and it's just dreamy, like you want to follow them wherever they go? Like, what are you talking about? I'll follow you. Those are some, you know, you sound clear. You look clear, right? You look like you're ambitious. You're going somewhere. That's what a strong liver will do. Will create these really bright, bright, bright eyes, glimmering with dreams, because the liver wants to plan and take you somewhere. You're going to see effects, for example, in lifeless eyes. They're not yellow, they're not red, but they're not white or glowing. They're kind of dull. They don't have a shine to them. Maybe they don't open up as wide. They're a little bit more like, you know, and that's also insight into the health of your liver. If your eyes were really red, maybe even yellow, like I'm talking about that inside, right? If your eyes were really, really red, that would indicate that's an angry liver. That's a liver who's very agitated, right? And you could also look at it from the Western perspective. Like that's a liver that's overwhelmed, that can't do its job. That's a liver that is accumulating toxins, right? Because the liver is supposed to process and move, right? Process things out of the body. And so if we have a lot of redness and yellow, you could imagine the buildup of not only anger, but toxins in that liver. And so your eyes really will be able to tell. Last but not least, which I'm saving, is because there are some differentiations. So really the sclera, the white, the color of your eyes, that's your liver. The underneath of your eyes are your kidneys. So if we have a lot of poofiness underneath here, if it's really dark underneath here, if it's really dry and red underneath here, that's speaking to the health of our kidneys. But the actual eyeball itself is the liver. And I'm sure we've also experienced that. You know, you're kind of looking at someone and you're talking to them and you're like, something's off with their eyes. I can't explain it. I'm not sure what it is, right? What's really cool about this is while it is a new language, over time it will become a tool that your body will naturally use. In the same way, when we're in conversations with someone, we are picking up on thousands of micro cues on a conscious and subconscious level, right? We're picking up on body language, on little things, on movements of the mouth, what words they use. These are things that our body is picking up on. When we start to look at it with this tool, your body will start to pick up on these things as well, whether we are aware or not of it. And you're going to walk away feeling much more empowered and informed about that individual without asking questions, just based off of these bits of information. So that's what happens when it comes to the eyes.
So one more example I thought of is when people are like really intoxicated, if someone's like really drunk or like on a lot of drugs, you can always tell in their eyes, right? You're like, oh, that person's not there anymore, right? When they're like, they get to that point, it's like such an easy tell, right? That's the first thing you notice. You're like, oh, I can see in their eyes, like they're totally gone.
That is such a good point. I didn't even think to bring that up. Yes. Immediately, the second someone's on drugs or alcohol, you see they're gone, right? That liver is dealing with a lot of toxins right now, and it is so busy it can't come to the door right now. You know? That's what it feels like. That's a great point, Andrew. And now we'll step into the mouth. Okay, I'm just curious, now that we're sort of piecing these together, can you think of examples of your life where you've been around someone and you've looked at their mouth and been like, something's off. Don't know what that is though. Or I wouldn't want to kiss you. Not off the top of our heads. That's okay. And we'll go through it more. And, maybe now that we plant these seeds, you'll just be a little bit more aware of somebody's mouth. So when it comes to the mouth, as we spoke about, the spleen is really responsible for digesting and processing both information and food, right? One thing to keep in mind is if somebody has a hard time digesting things, they're going to be more worried, right? We're going to be ruminating. That's the word that I like because it is a rumination. It's stuck. It's not moving and it's over and over. It's cycling. You're going to have a rumination. And also, as the spleen is this organ that has to process and digest, it has an essence of judgment. It's an organ that also is able to judge because it has to decide what to do with the information. Do I digest it? Do I move it here? Do I move it there? It has to process these things. And I say that because here's a great example, Donald Trump, okay? He has a mouth like this. I think I'm doing it right. No, I'm not doing it right. But he has this like protruding mouth. Yeah, something like that. And he has a lot of lines on the side. And when you see a mouth like that, that is a imbalanced spleen. Think of all the judgment for him to constantly be in this place where his mouth is like this, right? Deep lines around the mouth. I can't even do it. Okay, I'm just frowning. We get the point. But someone like Donald Trump would be, I'd look at that mouth and say, ooh, something funk is going on with his spleen. He has difficulty digesting. He definitely judges, right? Ruminates over things. That's definitely would be like an obvious thing of the spleen. Other things would be like just full moist lips, right? No cracking, no saliva getting stuck in between, no spitting coming out, just full lips. You can define them, you can see the arch of them, and it's moist, right? Not cracked. That's strong digestion. We like this. We like this a lot. What we don't like to see is, for example, pale lips, where your lips are like significantly paler than, let's say, other parts of your body, or significantly paler than the inside of here. So if there's like a color differentiation, right? Pale means lack of vitality, lack of blood flow, right? It's slow. Chronically dry lips. If your lips are constantly dry, constantly, doesn't matter the season, the summer, how much lip chap you put on and they're constantly dry, that also is a telltale sign of the spleen. Okay. Maybe we do ruminate things. We don't allow for information to be digested very clearly. We tend to, have anxiety around certain topics. It's going to manifest there with this dryness. And same thing for those deep lines around the mouth. You could even look at them as like smoker lines. Like, when someone smokes a lot, and they do that, and then you get the lines around here. That's spleen, right? That's going to be an indication that, ooh, we may be stagnant a bit. We're a little bit stuck with our digestion. Maybe we worry and we judge a lot, right? Because deep lines around the mouth are constantly having the mouth in that position, the Trump position. So we're going to call it the Trump position. I'm also in America, which is why I'm bringing him up. Okay. So that's some fun things about the spleen. Other things that you can see: blisters, ulcers. You ever get cuts in the sides of your mouth, cuts in your mouth at all? Um, um, People who have a lot of saliva sticking, right, to different parts of their mouth. These are all telltale signs that the spleen might not be in the best health, whether we are from an emotional perspective, from a diet. We also spoke about last time, and I know that the notes are available for everyone to see, but the spleen loves a calm environment to digest food. The spleen loves quiet and calmness. So if we're constantly eating in an environment where there's loud music and you're emailing and you're taking phone calls and Zooms, it's gonna manifest in the lips. It doesn't necessarily mean you're ruminating or anxiety. So there's different signs here that we can look at, but regardless, we want that full, moist, kissable lips.
I love this. The lips often people put on lip chap to give the moisture to the lips, but again, if you look deeper, it might be a spleen thing. Same with lip color to make you like look healthier, right? Like a lipstick or something, or a lip gloss or a lip tint. Again, you're trying to make yourself look healthier, but then if you go back to these notes, then it might be a deficiency that's going on deeper. The other thing too is the lines, especially because spleen is associated with worry. A lot of people have the marionette lines. When they're resting, their lips are downturned.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Sometimes people, yeah. So it's like that's that worry. Like they're constantly worried. I
yeah.
hate that feeling. But yeah, the
You do that so well.
yeah, too well. I worry.
But yes, that's a great point, right? You see, when our face is in a resting state, that's also another question that we can ask either our significant others or friends or family. What face is my face usually rested in? Like in my head, I think of myself like this. Okay. My husband has taken photos of me. I'm usually like this. Okay. And these are indications again of the health of that organ and what's going on and how can we just do little things to make it better. So, of course, we spoke about the lungs, right? Grief, sadness, they open up into our nose. So we can tell a lot about someone's health depending on their nose. Have you ever been around someone who has like a Rudolph the Red-Nosed red nose? And again, for the most part, you're not exactly sure what that means, but right off the bat, you're like, oh, that's different. That's something that's off. I'm not sure what it means, but hey, they have a really red nose, right? So when we have really red nose here, we can look at it like an imbalance in the lungs, right? Too much heat in the lungs, or perhaps just circulation issues. And so again, telltale sign that something's off with the health of our lungs. What's going on here? You can also, and this is not on the slide notes, but somebody who has chronic nasal dripping, their nose is a little bit swollen, they're constantly sniffling or making noises or blowing their nose, absolutely an imbalance of the lungs, right? Your nose should be clear. We should be able to predominantly breathe out of our nose. So if there's any blockages there that obstruct it, then we got to look a little bit deeper into the health of our lungs. And so for the most part, like a straight, well-formed nose, that sign of like strong lung qi means like your lungs have a lot of vitality. They have a lot of good energy. You have a good immune system, right? What would be opposite to this? If your nose starts to deform over time, change shape, get maybe a little more bullous in one area, or have like more defined areas over time, that would indicate, hey, our lungs aren't strong. What's happening here? Pale, waxy. I'm trying to think of the perfect example, but you know, when you're in snow or outdoors for a long time and your face becomes like this, like really waxy white, kind of like pale color, that's like the look of this. If you have like a very waxy or pale nose, that's a sign that, you know, lung could use a little bit of help, whether that's the way that we breathe or yeah, that's a great, yes. Some kids get a rosy nose when they're coming down with a cold too. Marissa, that's amazing. Interest. Yes. Wow. There's some great insights here. And she always has a leaky nose, red from wiping. Yes. Right. So there, right then and there, we can look and say, hey, how can we nourish the lungs a little bit more? Whether it is emotionally, we know that lungs have a lot to do with sadness and grief. And I've shared this before, but it's my belief that grief is just unexpressed love, right? When we feel intense amount of grief, it's all this love that we don't know how or where to express it. So, that's something to look into. And of course, just breath work. Our lungs are a muscle too. We want to train them the same way we want to train our biceps. We want to be able to train them to take in more oxygen, right? To have bigger capacity, to function better. I know Andrew's awesome when it comes to breath work, so I'm sure he has some fun things there. And so that's generally the nose. Now we're going to move into the ears. Okay. I mean, I can remember from high school, we had a teacher and his ears were not only the largest ears I've ever seen, but they had the most hair I have ever seen in my life. And it just stuck with me to this day. But it's just another reminder that, again, like what you just see is like a regular ear on most people, there could be peculiar things that stand out that can make us look into an organ more. And so the kidneys have everything to do with our wisdom, our willpower, right? Our vitality. We're in many ways, Chinese medicine explains that our kidneys give us all the battery packs we need for life, and they come from our parents. So somebody who has these like large, thick ears, you can look at them and say, oh, you have a lot of vitality. You're going to live a long life. You have this strength in you that you were given from your parents that's going to lead you through a good life. You know that they're going to be strong. A way you could look at them is people with like strong kidneys. Like you would always call them to help you move. They are so strong and dependable. Like these are, strong-willed individuals. They could probably move your car if you ask them to, they would do it. So we're looking for those like large, thick ears. That's like a good sign of kidney health. People have really thin, weak, or flabby ears. Maybe the cartilage isn't as defined in their ears, or like some of these like twirly areas aren't as defined. That's going to be a sign of just maybe lower kidney health. So we want to nourish it a little bit more. We'd also want to look into like our urinary health, our low back health, things like that that would correlate. And of course, we spoke about from the first slide, and I know we're talking about ears, but kidneys also have a lot to do with just this area underneath the eyes. So if we have really, really, really dark circles, sometimes, I'm not sure if any of you have heard, but we sometimes refer to that as allergic shiners, right? Is it a food sensitivity? That's actually, the kidneys are going to help us see that. Is it really puffy? Do we have a hard time moving water through our body, right? That's also a sign of kidney health. So all these little things come together. I mean, even the ears, you can look at other things about the ears. Like, do they have an exceptionally long lobe? Is it extremely pointy? All these things will mean different things, but generally speaking, it's a way to just look at someone and understand their general health. And so piecing this all together, like I know this was sort of a lot in one, but really the goal is to just put this in your back pocket, plant seeds of it in a way for you to then be able to better assess your everyday surroundings, the people that you're interacting with, the same way that your body picks up on micro cues when you're in conversation. This is just an additional tool, right? When you're looking at someone and you're like, something feels off, I don't know what it is, or I feel a bit uncomfortable, what is it? And then you spot it. Maybe you spot the deep 11s, or you spot the redness in the corner of their eyes, or you spot really deep lines around their mouth. And again, it's not a concluding diagnostic, but it's just another pattern that you can add to your piece of your puzzle. I've also included, I know we're tight on time, so I don't want to go through this right now, but I did include for everyone on their own a self-assessment tool. So these are all questions that you can ask yourself, your partner, your friends, as just a way to tune in to what would I be looking at for each one. So like, do you have deep lines? Is it forehead? And then at the bottom, it does say a little bit of what that all means. So it goes through each one, the eyes, the liver, the mouth, the spleen, the nose, the lungs, as just a reminder of what to look for. And this is a great fun tool that you guys can use on your own or do with friends and family. And again, it's patterns, right? we want to look for patterns. It's not just like this one-off thing, but rather over time, is it a particular area that I'm noticing? Is it a particular theme? Is it redness? Is it dryness, right? It's just about putting patterns together and piecing it all together. And these are the major takeaways from today. Your face is a map, and it does reflect in the same way that we are a microcosm of nature. Your face is a microcosm of the health of your body. And so we can get a lot of cool signs and symbols from that. Keep in mind, these are clues. These are not diagnostics, right? If we see someone with a really red nose, we're not going to go up to them and say, you have a lung issue. I'm going to diagnose you with a lung issue. No, 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 no. These are just signs that we're collecting in our jigsaw puzzle of health in order to help understand the complete picture, right? If we see someone with a red nose, we could maybe just very casually and subtly do breath work with them and hope that that helps their lung chi, but we're not going to just diagnose them with a lung issue. And of course, balance is key, right? We both want to support our weak and we want to support our strong. We want to just generally support our organs in the same way we look at a garden and we don't just say, oh, that tree's got to go. No, we look at the tree and we say, let's do a little bit more sun and let's try and change the soil and let's see if that helps for now, right? Again, we just want to support and nourish our body and our organs. That is key. And of course, just some food for thought. It's your face and your body is always speaking to you. There are signs and symptoms everywhere, and your face is just one way it communicates. And so this is just your reminder to always clue in, look at your face, love it, send it so much love, and start piecing some fun clues together. And that was the talk for today.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful. Maybe what we'll do next week, Allie, if you're comfortable sharing your slide, is maybe we will do that self-reflection next week and we can lead it or you can come back, no pressure. And just kind of allow that some time for some self-reflection for yourselves, or if you're showing up with a partner today, then you guys do it together and help each other read. And then we can talk and see what comes up and see if there's any questions that come up based on the self-assessments or partner assessments next week.
I love that. That sounds so good. I will definitely be there and I'll make sure to share all the slides with you so that, yes.
Okay, awesome. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. This was so insightful. I know, thank you. I know that, yeah, we never realize when you can show up and be here and share your wisdom because you are just such a lovely presenter. Oh, is our internet?
You are so awesome. It was a bit choppy, but I did hear everything. And I just want to say thank you so much, Marissa and Andrew, for having me. Thank you, everyone who came to learn. And I'm so excited for you guys to plant these seeds. And I can't wait to hear how they grow. And it might take a few months, it doesn't matter. But we planted some really fun seeds of a different way to look. And I can't wait to hear more about it. And I'll be here next week as well when we do the self-assessment quiz.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, no, that you were incredible. I just posted Allie's Instagram in the chat there. If people want to go over and give her a follow, that'd be awesome. But yeah, thank you so much, Allie. You are so insightful. The way that you present information is really easy to digest, and like this stuff isn't easy to present, right? It's like Chinese medicine theory. This is deep, deep wisdom, but the way that you show up and present it is really digestible for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. Makes
Thank
me so
you very, very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Wonderful day, everyone. See you next week.
Bye, guys.